of you who were in 2010, how was that run? What was the experience with it? I heard there's some stories. What is that iconic run like? Dahlia has like this face like, oh no, the run.
I worked so hard on that run. I remember like that was my first season like doing pit like for a winter group, and like I was playing xylo and I was like super nervous and I was getting lessons like every week on it, and then I had to leave like I think I had to miss like a Friday night rehearsal because I was doing a wind ensemble tour. And then when I came back, they're like, oh, you're not playing xylo on this anymore. John Lee's going to play it. And I was so distraught. I was like, why? All this hard work for nothing. And then, yeah, John Lee took it away from me.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it wasn't for
If I could take it back, I would.
No, I'm glad you did it. Everyone heard you on the finals run.
With a bunch of wrong notes, apparently.
Yeah.
Is that the run that 2015 auditions played, John Lee?
Yes, I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember.
It is. We played it in 2015, and it was crazy.
Yeah, that was like one of the like audition excerpts that we had to learn like at the camp and play. Was the run. And it was like, really intimidating.
And then Ian asked us to play it down the line.
Yeah, down the line all by ourselves, like at auditions.
You know what's funny is we spent like all season on that. Like that's all we played for like 4 months. It's like, all right, we have a 5-hour rehearsal. This is all we're gonna play. And it was like every weekend. That's all we did.
Down tempo and then just keep cranking it all the way up.
All right, center 3 marimbas first.
That's also an inside tip for anyone who wants to audition for the Pulse Pit. Like Emily said, like they played it for auditions. So if you guys want to get better prepared for auditions, your best bet is sometimes to hit some of us up and be like, hey, can I have some of the music? Because if you learn how to play the style, sometimes Ian will give these sight reading pieces at auditions to play and give you like a week to learn it, or that day you get 2 hours and then he's going to just see who hangs. So sometimes that's a really good way to prepare too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's move on to our Instagram question. So our first question comes from @musicalwaysheals. And this person asks, what type of 4-mallet technique is used at Pulse? How are preps done and practicing tips?
I say Kevin takes this.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think the younger guys do this.
I think this could be like a super long question, just because we do get very technical, I think, in rehearsals and technique walks and whatnot. I think the general concept is we have, I guess, like the SoCal approach, where it's definitely more relaxed and we don't try and keep our mallets up at an angle the entire time. Not that that's incorrect or correct. It's just our way of approaching things. And yeah, I think going into that topic could be an entire block of like 4 hours. But I think the biggest concepts I would take from is just being relaxed as much as possible. Because if you ever stiff up, it's almost impossible to play anything complex and fast.
Yeah. Can I add on that? Since I came like from out of state, like, cause I'm from Minnesota and I was like born and raised playing like really like Midwest style. When I moved out to California and like auditioned, that was like the biggest change that I had to make, was just like the relaxation of like, I don't know, like the grip and everything. It was definitely different than what I was used to. And like even preps and everything and coming up and approaching like the keyboard is a lot more relaxed than it is in like the Midwest. I don't know about the East Coast. I know Midwest and East Coast they used to be pretty similar, but that's definitely the biggest change in California, is like, it's definitely a more relaxed approach. So.
All right, what about practicing tips? I feel like there's something a couple others can chime in.
Go slow.
How slow? Kevin, I know you have a really good example of how slow to go for BD. Or BD.
Oh, yeah. I actually got this tip from Alice Kim, who marched BD with me. We both literally played dirt at like 60 beats or maybe even slower, 50 beats per minute, until we got like perfect note accuracy, and then we would move on to the next scale. Just working at anything slow, and we even did that at Pulse this past year. And I think it benefited us a lot, just making sure that we learned correctly versus learning things quickly and then getting bad habits and then trying to break those habits, that always ends up being a bigger task than taking it slowly and just learning it right the first time.
Yeah, especially because during the season, I feel like, like you're playing and practicing for like months and months, like 10 minutes of music, 8 minutes of music. It's, in retrospect, it's like not that much time. And muscle memory and just making sure that you're learning things the right way first is just so big. So you don't have to go back and waste, time trying to relearn things or trying to fix certain problems that you picked up in the very beginning.
Yeah.
By the way, Ian is in the chat and he says hello. Hi, Ian.
Of course.
Everyone act normal now. Just kidding.
I want to add to the practicing tips.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Dahlia.
And it's something like I've learned a lot. Like I feel like I didn't practice very well when I was like marching, but as a teacher, like one of the big things you can learn is like being patient with yourself and then like setting goals. Like if you look at like, oh, I just need to get better at the show, a whole lot of stuff. But if you're like, all right, this week I'm just going to focus on these 2 measures and I'm going to break them down like a million different ways, like it's going to benefit you so much more in the long run than just playing through the show the same way every week.
I feel like another
I also wanted to add on. Sorry. I was going to say, like, recording yourself is also a really good tip, too, especially when you think you have something down. Just recording yourself and then rewatching it and looking at it from, like, an outside perspective. Like, if you were watching someone else play that, like, what would you try to have them fix or do differently? And making sure you're, like, being self-critical.
That was like literally what I was going to suggest, like recording yourself. But I guess to add on to that, I think I feel like when I was teaching, I like to emphasize the quality over quantity. And I definitely remember this in one of my auditions when I was auditioning in front of Ian. I don't even remember what solo I played, but I played it really fast and it probably sounded like crap. And Ian had said, why don't you play that slower and play it as good, like the best you can? And then it was way better. So, we kind of laughed at that because he said, if you just played it slower the first time, I would have loved that. So I think it's definitely like going on that whole mantra that we're saying, play slower.
All right, so our second question comes from Alex Does Music. To those of you who did, how did you approach WGI in college at the same time?
Terribly.
Yeah, just no sleep, very terribly.
Yeah.
I don't know, someone with more successful.
I feel like I had a decent approach. I mean, I wasn't like full time in 2015, but I was definitely like starting, and so it was kind of like my first year, and then like a first year of Pulse, and then first year doing school. And it was definitely intimidating, but honestly, just like you learn like in the activity, like time management is literally everything. And if you really do want to do both, like you have to expect that it is going to be a lot of work. But I mean, if you put in the work and everything and you manage your time, and I know that's really difficult because then you want to hang out, with drumline friends or school friends, or you have sectionals. Like that was a huge thing for us, is we had a lot of sectionals on like Thursday nights, 2015 and 2016. So like stuff like that it's pretty, like if you manage your time well and you commit to it, like I think it'll be fine, but just know that it's pretty difficult. That doesn't mean it's not achievable. It's just very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I remember time management for sure teaches you just doing homework when you can. Like I used to bring it and do it on breaks. Sectionals, we had to drive all over the place. So I definitely just learned how to fit in the best time to study. It was, whether it be after rehearsal or in between, jobs or whatever. But time management is a big thing that I learned while being in school and doing Pulse. That's the only reason why I only marched one summer too, because I didn't do well enough to do all the summers and Pulse and school. So I don't know how some of you did that.
For me, it was a lot of, and I've given this like a piece of advice to other people is making sure that you understand your schedule for everything that you're doing. So like if you're doing school and WGI and even DCI, it's understanding what your schedule looks like 2 months down the road or 3 months down the road, especially with school. I know a lot of times it's hard to register for classes and even get classes that you need. So a lot of times I feel like I always see people that they either drop out of school or they don't march the rest of the years for the WGI because they didn't plan when they needed to focus on what. But it's only doable. I marched all of my years in WGI and DCI. And in the process, I finished my undergrad and also started teaching Pulse during my master's program. So it's only doable as long as like you have to focus on time management pretty much. The moment you kind of disregard time planning, that's when you kind of start to drown a little bit and you tend to start to quit something, whether it be school or WGI.
Cool. So I guess the overall consensus is that it does suck a little bit, but with a little bit of sacrifice and preparation, it's definitely doable.
Yeah, and just the last thing I wanted to add is like it's totally unique to the person. So just remember, like you know like how much you can handle. So don't cut yourself short. That's not a phrase. Don't do what's worse for you. I guess it's like you know how much you can handle. Just take the time, think about it critically, and just make sure you're not getting the short end of the stick, and put your wellness at the forefront. God, I suck with words. I apologize.
And I think also like communicating, right? Everyone's talking about time management and thinking about yourself, but I think communication is also important. Like communicating to like Ian and the instructors, or communicating to your professors, or even if you're like right away. I remember when the semester started, I noticed that spring break in Dayton did not line up, and I was like, well, I'm either not going to Dayton or I'm missing a week of school. So I remembered I communicated to all my professors that I'm going to be missing this week, like right off the bat, and tried to make sure I could handle for that. And if you're teaching, maybe you're teching somewhere, I would strongly suggest you like communicate with your other instructors, saying, I'm also marching, but I have to be a tech. Like, it's, make sure that you fulfill your responsibilities as a tech, but also your requirements to be, a member of the ensemble that's holding up their own.
I guess the last thing I'll say too, this is something I tell a lot of people, is when you're laying in your deathbed, what are you going to regret more? Taking an extra year to complete school, or not fulfilling your WGI dreams? And I feel like that's something important to think about. Like, what will you really regret from this life? And you can always do school, you can always do more school, you can always transfer schools, but doing WGI is a more limited experience. All right, next question at Nemi. How did you go about your life after aging out? What did you do? What were your plans?
Kevin raised his hand.
Sorry. Okay. So it's funny because part of the reason why I learned about planning ahead was because during my undergrad, I had no idea that for the profession that I wanted to go in, I needed to network outside of school. So I did really well in school, but then I had no network to try and get a job, which is why I ended up getting my master's. So I think sometimes you don't even need plans. It's just like doing what you want to do, I guess. I don't know. But I got my master's and then ended up teaching. I found myself missing WGI too much. And I wanted to give back for all the years that I received at Pulse and all the other groups that I marched. So yeah.
I guess I could go. So after I aged out, I think it's funny. Kevin's story and mine are kind of similar. It's about kind of like paying it back to like all the great experiences that I had as a member and teaching Pulse after that. Eventually I came to a point where I think I had to make a choice between kind of my career progression and teaching and just the time that it takes. Because I don't teach now, but now I work in the tech industry as a designer. I work at Amazon. But I do miss WGI a lot, so especially teaching.
Dahlia, do you want to chime in on this? Sorry, I know you have some like various different careers.
Sure, yeah. So after I aged out, I just taught a lot, really. Like high school, DCI, WGI, like middle school, all over the place. Still doing that a little bit. I've kind of gone away from teaching. I started pursuing like a kind of military route. I'm in the Army Reserves right now, so I started doing that a little bit. That obviously doesn't take up all of my time, but trying to like dabble in that, still doing music, but serving in a different way. And I'm teaching, working at a like school for children with disabilities, working with like dance teachers. So it's like I'm trying to get away from the WGI drumline world and teach more in my own capacity, what I'm trying to find still. Like I'm still finding my paths right now, but it's a journey, you know?
Anyone else?
Go, Shar.
Well, after I aged out, I taught I still always taught. While I was going to school, I was taking extra classes to do my accounting degree, and I thought I was going to be a CPA, so I was taking classes for that and studying for the CPA exam. But then I changed my mind and I walked into a restaurant, so now I cook for a living, and life is pretty crazy, but yeah, that's how I got here.
Yeah, and then for me, after I aged out of Pulse, I started to teach at Pulse Open. I think that was the first year that Pulse started a second ensemble. I was with them for a year, and then I was teaching at a variety of high schools, and I had gone to school to be a landscape architect, and so I was doing that in a design office for a while. And then after a couple years of doing that, around 2017, I stopped teaching as a whole, and I decided to get my master's at Columbia in New York. So I moved to the East Coast. So I'm no longer teaching music anymore. So I do miss it, but I'm enjoying my life out in New York. So I'm thankful that Whitney asked me to come back and speak about some Pulse experiences.
I think it's cool that even though like we all like did the activity, and whether we're like teaching or not, it just shows that not everybody has to be like, going into music education, or there's not just certain, majors or groups that you go to school for. Like the activity itself can benefit you in so many different areas and so many different careers. And I think that's like the biggest takeaway is you don't just have to do music. That doesn't have to be 100% of what you're dedicating your time to, like how Dahlia is, and like how a lot of people are. Like you can still balance, teaching and finding career paths just like different. It doesn't always have to be WGI or DCI. Like there's so many opportunities, and they might not even be music related, but you can always take what you learn from marching and from your instructors and from, the people you march with, and you can apply it to literally anything in any career.
Yeah, that's a great point, Emily.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, our last Instagram question is from Aiden B12, and it's, what is your favorite
Did we lose
show?
Whitney?
Am I back in? Hello.
She's
Yeah,
back.
you, Whitney.
Oh, hi. What is your?
I can go ahead and do the next question if Whitney, we can't hear you. It's from
We hear Whitney.
You guys
we
can't
do?
hear me?
I hear Whitney.
Kevin is like 5 seconds behind
Messing
or
with me,
something.
huh?
Yeah, Kevin, you have a huge delay.
What is your favorite show that you have not been in? So either in WGI or DCI.
So not Pulse or.
Yeah, I guess if there was a show that you weren't in but you would like to be in, this person, Aiden B12, did not specify, so the question is open.
I have one. I have my answer.
All right.
Cavaliers 2006 Machine. Probably one of my most favorite DCI shows.
That's a good show.
I definitely have one too then now. In 2004, I was absolutely in love with Santa Clara Vanguard's the music of Scheherazade. That was like that percussion ensemble. Oh my god, I
so good.
I've watched that video so many times. I mean, in the time when I was marching, I can't believe how many times I watched it. I think I even bought the DVD when DVDs were a thing.
I loved the Pit book and the show of RCC 2011. I thought like their ballad was just so open and spacious and beautiful. I would have loved to play in that show.
Was that Fly Fall Fly?
Hope. What is it? Hope Dream Fly?
Hope Dream
Hope
Fly.
I Dream.
Fly, Paul, Fly. Is that what you just said?
I don't know what the name was. I love that too. It was beautiful.
I actually really love the outro to that show. The one with like no electronics is just acoustic. It was really good.
Yeah.
Beautiful writing. Beautiful playing.
But Pulse is good too, right, Ian?
I'll go. Mine was definitely Blue Devils 2011. That's like the show that I think I have like the best memories like watching, and something that like really inspired me to keep pursuing the marching activity.
I think my show would be when I first started to learn about Pulse, I started to like watch all the Pulse videos, and I really liked Breathe. I don't know why. It was just like one of my favorite shows. Music was awesome, and then it's pretty hype. And then all my role models were in it, the ones that I see now on this stream.
Don't do
like,
that.
Honestly, Breathe was the show. It was a little fun fact. I told this to Mark Beaton when I was like auditioning for Pulse and doing like the member chat and stuff, but that show is literally like one of my favorite shows. And when my first year in WGI, or like going to WGI, I was in high school, and I was sitting like in the stands with my brother, and I remember watching that show and I was like, oh my gosh, like, you know, like, what is this? Who is this group? I knew nothing really about WGI. I was just like a high schooler excited to like go to a different state. Or I was in middle school at the time even. Like I was pretty young. I think I was 12. And my brother, he knew like everything about, you know, like WGI, DCI, especially about like Cavaliers, like he was obsessed with. But he told me like, oh, this is Pulse Percussion. This is their show. Like, you know, maybe one day like you could be doing this. And that's like one of the things I like held on to the most. And that was why I wanted to move to California and to do Pulse, was because seeing the 2009 show inspired me to just pick up my life and to stop what I was doing straight after high school and go straight to California in March. That's like how big of an impact that show had on me. So,
I mean, if we're gonna like talk about Pulse shows, like I think like after, since we were done marching at 11, I feel like every show I watched after me, I was like, oh my god, that Pit book is so cool. Oh my god, they keep getting better. Like, oh my god, they're, you know, and it's like, could I play that book? You know?
Yeah, totally.
They're so talented now. It's insane.
Yeah.
All right, we received a question in the chat. We also lost Brienne. That's okay. Oh, she's back. All right, from the Twitch chat, what's the biggest barrier to entry for world-class marimba playing?
Oof.
I think I want to say it's a lack of confidence with your playing. Because I feel like a lot of playing for marimba is really like, if you're too scared to play the instrument, it's just like the music's so much more complex sometimes, or like I guess just technically more complex. Because musically, I think vibe music can be also complex. It's just you're not really going to get through it if you're just scared the entire time.
I think one thing that can maybe freak people out about like auditioning for world-class groups too is a lot of the times you don't really know. I mean, well, I'm just speaking from my experience because I didn't come from Southern California and I wasn't around any people before I auditioned for Pulse in 2015 out of Southern California. So I think one of the biggest, like the most intimidating thing was just not knowing who was going to be there and not knowing the talent and not really having those connections of being able to say like, oh, this was my instructor and they taught me everything I know. And you know how everyone kind of like, it's not really about knowing each other. Like you can still show up and you can earn a spot. I mean, like not to like talk about myself, but that's what I did. Like I just showed up and I worked really hard and I got the spot. And I kind of put all of that aside because you have to, like, you can't compare yourself to who's there. You can't, you know, worry about the connections that they have to other people or what they're doing. You know, you just really have to focus on you and also like utilize your resources and the people that you do know to help you. I think that's like a huge thing is definitely utilizing like your resources, instructors, sending videos to people, because I mean, I don't think that I've ever been in a situation where I've sent a video to someone to ask them to like critique it and they haven't responded or they've said, you know, something horrible back. So definitely like things like that are things that I'd have to overcome and like barriers that I face, like moving out and doing the group and everything, but it's not impossible. So you just got to worry about you and just focus.
Yeah, totally. I think it's easy to be intimidated, especially if you're coming from high school and you think of like world-class groups and just joining a group of some like a higher caliber. But we're all just human and we all try to be as nice as possible, at least at Pulse, right? So always feel free to like reach out, use your network, or even just cold reach out to anyone. Kevin, right? Everyone can send you videos and you'll critique them, right? See, there you go. So
add Kevin on Instagram and send him videos.
Oh yeah, Kevin, what's your Instagram handle? What is that again?
I don't know. I need to look it up.
KP Sanch 12.
I think to add on to John Lee, I realized in the past years that I feel like Pulse has very embraced this kind of like educational atmosphere. Like I noticed that you guys, Pulse does so many clinics and come play with us, kind of thing. And I think that was a great opportunity that I don't think existed when we were marching, 10 years ago, 13 years ago. But definitely now I think you should take advantage of that. And that seems like a great way to just be able to play next to someone different than you would at your high school. So, and to learn from Ian and Kevin.
Definitely.
All right, before we move on to more questions, let's check the chat. Ian says, I have to head out. Love you guys and thank you for doing this. Sorry for any time I yelled at you at rehearsal. I just wanted you to not suck, but didn't always know how to use my adult words heart. So I think it's a good time to talk about maybe like old Ian and new Ian. He's not here.
I don't believe any word.
How is Ian like, I guess?
Is this an Ian roast or what?
No.
The roast of Ian growing.
Like, Whitney, you want us to do it? Like, Whitney's asking us to do this, right?
I mean, Jesse, you and I were there the first year he was around, and I feel like he was just super goofy in 08. Like, yeah. I just have this vivid memory of him when we were playing, like, the Steve Reich section, and he was, like, doing this thing with his arms, acting like an albatross, like, just to make us do the dynamics. And, like, I don't know. That's just what I remember about Ian in 08.
Yeah, definitely, Shar. I think that was his first year, right? When he joined Pulse in 2008, which was my first year as well. And you're right, he was so goofy. Like, he was, I mean, I don't know if he's still goofy now. He probably is, I don't know. But, yeah, I remember a time when we were working a really difficult mallet part, and I think one of the techs had the Met on, and we were like, doing some reps, and then he kind of walked around to the drum set, and he started just hitting stuff like out of time and like just being kind of obnoxious on the set, just to see if we could like keep playing in time. It's like, how is that helping us? He's like, in the lot, everyone's playing. It's like, what? And like some people stood right next. Like, oh my God. And I stood right next to him too. I think I was on vibraphone that year, like right next to the drum set player. It was like the most distracting but funny thing ever. Like.
That's totally still a thing. He does that today still. But he does it with other sections too. Sometimes we'll be like sectionaling and then he'll go over to the bass drums with his hi-hat and be like, play these.
Yeah, from being a member and then being an instructor now, I think it's crazy because he's so high energy, but it's because I feel like he's constantly thinking about how he can say the information to relate to certain people, you know?
Yep.
Because not every one way is going to be not everyone's going to respond the same way to how you deliver the information. So I can just like sometimes tell that he's trying to say things in so many ways so that everyone in the ensemble kind of catches that. And I think that definitely works well with his high energy. He's
Didn't
definitely
he jump kick a cymbal once?
Huh?
Didn't he like jump kick a cymbal once?
Oh, I don't know if he did or didn't.
Yes, he
That
did.
sounds like something he would do.
I would love to see that.
Ian is definitely very fun to have around. He can be very, very fun to have. Just like not at all serious, but a lot of energy and just kind of crazy.
To kind of add on to that too, I feel like he gets this like rep going around the community that like, oh, it's Ian Grom, and like people freak out when he like comes to visit ensembles, or like I remember when we were at Blue Stars, he would like randomly pop in the summer and everyone would be like, oh my god, Ian's coming, but I'd be like, why is everyone so scared? Like he's just a big goofball and like he's just here to like help you get better, but like in the funniest like roasting way possible. So
I just want to
Getting
say,
more flashbacks.
I was scared of him. Well, I was gonna say, I was scared of him even in the ensemble. Like just knowing how good his ears were, and like he'd always be right up in your face, like, oh, I know you missed that note like 17 measures ago. I know you did it, and like he's always like everyone said, like so passionate and like so much energy that like yeah, there's like a hype. There's a certain standard like when you see him right in front of you.
To anyone out there who has heard like the old crazy Ian stories, that's just his high energy. And now he's like married, he does yoga, he's vegan, or tries really hard to be vegan. And like from a recent member perspective, because he's not around as much, we almost missed him roasting. Like when he comes, we're like, yes, Dad Ian is here. And when he like fun roasts us, we start applauding. Like now it's like a thing we celebrate because it's nice to be good, you know. It's nice to get better. So it's okay. All right, we got a lot of questions from the chat. We're going to try to get to all of them. Have you ever broke equipment and never said anything about it? Can I go first for this one? Just because it's not equipment, but during Dayton Week, we stay at this church that we rehearse at. And I did this my first year and my last year, 2019 there. We were pushing into the church and my vibe hit the wall and it broke off like a huge part of the wall. And I just got really scared to tell Pastor Kevin because I broke part of the church and whatever. So John Lee actually helped me tell Pastor Kevin. So thanks, John Lee, for that. And then my last year in 2019, I did the same thing and broke another section of the wall off. But he told me it's okay. He told me it's good for the mics. But
Do you drive a car?
I didn't tell anyone for a while, though. And then do you what?
Do you drive a car?
Can I drive a car? Yes. Haven't had accidents? Maybe.
I have possibly the worst. Well, I don't know if it's the worst, but it's a really bad story.
You would.
And it happened twice. So in 2016, Vanessa and I were the Marimbas on side 2. And I think almost every single day, one of us would forget to unplug our Marimbas. And we would always break the cables. And it was so bad. And we never told anyone. We just kept replacing the cables. And I think it was Thursday of finals week. Vanessa had 50 feet of cable to her frame, and we didn't tell anyone. And we eventually had to tell somebody because we were on our last cable, and we had to, we didn't have any extras, so we had to say something. And it was even funnier because the next year, that summer afterward, I don't think I've ever told anyone this. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but at BD, that summer, the same exact thing happened for the San Antonio regional. The person that was next to me, I guess, forgot, or maybe I forgot. I don't know. We didn't unplug, and the cable broke, and everyone was freaking out because it was the San Antonio regional. But it was funny because I knew how to fix it since I had like 6 times during the winter season before.
Nice.
But yeah, those are pretty stressful moments in my career.
I don't think I've ever I mean, I broke like a lot of mallets, like especially when we were like prototyping like Grom mallets, like they would just snap like in my hands, and Ian would always get mad at me and tell me I was like strong like a bull, but like I wasn't like squeezing or anything. They would just all of a sudden I'd be playing and one would just like snap. But like honestly, I broke a lot of mallets in my career in Pulse and in Blue Devils, like just a lot. I mean, the Markworths, not so much because the shaft was really thick, but I mean, it was a lot of mallets. But I do have a cable story. It has nothing to do with me, but we were pushing up from, I think, Kasulis or something, and Izzy, one of the Vibe players, I will never forget this moment. He got his entire cable like wrapped. I think it was Izzy, unless it was one of the Vibe players like Christy or Sage, but I'm pretty sure it was Izzy. His entire cable like wrapped in his wheel. So we couldn't,
God, I remember this.
Like, yeah. So we couldn't even push the Vibe up. You know how Kasulis, there's like that little hill to come up on, but it kind of slants. So one of his wheels was like a grocery shopping cart, just like janky, just not working, but the rest were. So his Vibe was slowly like wheeling down while one wheel was just wrapped in this cable. And at one point, I think someone from Chino Hills came over and they just ended up lifting the vibraphone, and that's how it was carried back to the truck. Just like lifted because the cable was so stuck and we just had to move. We were like, we have to get the equipment back to the truck, like hurry up. And he's like literally lifting the vibraphone, like walking like this back to the truck that's like all the way in the middle of the parking lot. It was so funny. I'll never forget it.
This is kind of like a confession now too. So in 2013, we had that section where we all started saying like, get up, stand up or whatever. And like the Vibes and Dahlia for whatever reason all had like the megaphone. And we were supposed to be like projecting our voices to it. I purposefully broke the volume slider off, turned it all the way down first, and then purposefully broke it off so that you wouldn't hear my voice that loud. That's all I did.
Come on.
I don't blame you, Brian. I don't blame you.
Want to be part of it?
I don't blame you, but come on.
Get up, stand up. I guess that's your way of renegade, honestly. All right. Does anyone else have any last stories before we move on?
Yeah, I'm like, I don't remember anything I have, but I think I want to bring up like a recent memory that we were talking about was in 2010, like one of my best friends, Johnny, he brought like empanadas over, and his mom made empanadas for everyone, and so he had that. And at the time, he was playing synth, so of course the synth cart was the table for the empanadas, and so everyone's eating empanadas, and I don't know how it happened, but at one point, a jar of salsa like spilled over onto the synth. And I'm pretty sure this was right before like an important show, because all I remember for the rest of the night is Ian like yelling at everyone. Like that's probably one of the angry Ians we've experienced.
Yeah, and this was before like laptops and all that stuff, so everything was programmed in the synth, and he had to take it. I don't remember where he took it or switched it out, but I think he had to take it apart, and there was salsa like inside the synthesizer, so he had to find a new synth and like reprogram everything. Oh my god!
It was like the whole show of 2010.
Yeah.
I think he started the show in 2010 as well. Like that synth started the show.
So naturally, it would hold all the food.
Oh yeah.
Don't eat empanadas near your synthesizer.
Yeah.
Synths and marimbas are not tables.
Yeah, and I think right after that. Yeah.
Wait, can I just mention?
Subwoofers are not tables.
Can I just say, do not put water bottles in your mallet bag.
Oh.
Like, dear God, keep your food away from the instruments, please. And I know Kevin and Whitney and Brienne and all you fools are laughing because I know there used to be so much trash in your mallet bag. I know it.
We clean it out though, okay? We always clean it out. So if you do keep stuff in your mouth bag, clean it out.
No water.
You know, it's funny, John Lee, like speaking of like keeping stuff like food in your mallet bags, you know, in like 2011 when they wanted us to like play with one hand, remember? Like they wanted us to multitask. So they were like,
Oh,
we should
yeah.
play mallets with one hand and like text with the other hand or something like that. So we started joking that we should keep food in our mallet bag and like eat a burrito like while playing or something, and like.
I think my favorite thing is when you like go for a mallet change and you like pull out your mallets and some like wrapper pops out with it and you're just like, oh my God. You know what I mean? When you pull out the mallets out of the bag and then like wrappers, like Starburst wrappers would fly everywhere. And it's so embarrassing because it's always like the mallets you don't use often, but you use them for like one part of your show. You like whip them out and like a bunch of like Starburst wrappers go everywhere. Oh God.
Naturally, that's your trash bag.
Don't do this. Don't do
John, I don't know if you knew this, but that reminds me of 2016. There's a part in the show where we go under our boards for a long time. So Kevin, Vanessa, and I had this great idea to put goldfish crackers in our mallet bags, and then in the middle of the show, we would take them out, eat them, and then do a push-up, a high five, and get back up to play. But after a while, we stopped doing it because in Dayton, you can like see everyone. But yeah,
So was that like
the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Was that like one bag of goldfish for the whole season?
I'm just kidding. Was that one bag of goldfish?
The whole season, you know?
I don't know. I think we use different foods throughout the season.
Great, even better.
All right, next question. Ooh, we have a lot. Okay, we're gonna try to get through these quickly. What's the most interesting or challenging aspect of Pulse's writing, both from a marimba perspective and an ensemble perspective?
Well, I'm out of this one.
From a marimba perspective, I feel like Pulse parts are deceptively hard or deceptively easy. What's the word? Like they're harder than they seem.
I think to go with John Lee's, I feel like it's never hand friendly. I don't know if that makes sense. Like sometimes it looks like it might be easy because it's not like super fast, but it's always like so technical, and it's like, I don't know. Like I even look back at 2017, for example. I think 2016, 2017, that's when Ian started to write, not caring what the hands did versus like what the music sounded like. Like learning that 2016 book when we first got it in the intro to 2017. That was probably like those are probably the hardest parts that I've played in anything WGI DCI related, and they were definitely not hand friendly, and it took almost the entire season to get them close to what they were finals night.
Yeah, which I think is kind of cool in a weird way, not maybe as a player, but it's like the book is written to sound the best, and you just kind of got to figure it out, which is cool. I don't know. From an ensemble, though? Wait, what was the question about the ensemble part?
Just from like a marimba perspective or ensemble perspective, what is cool about Ian's writing? What do you think is interesting about it, etc.?
I think that like the coolest thing for me, well, besides like when I got the music and like I really looked at the sheet music and everything and it looked really intimidating. But like besides that, like I think the ensemble moments and like how much of like how impactful they are, like when you have the music and stuff and you're in ensemble and you're playing it together for the first time or the fifth time or the 50th time, it still like makes you feel like the music is so strong, and you feel like whenever I would play like Ian's music, I always felt like really powerful and like really confident, especially at like ensemble moments where everything front to back was just like insane. Like I think a lot of like last year, like the closer, like the end of the closer and how intense it was like front to back. And it just sounds like so like powerful. And I think that's super cool with like Ian and John's writing is it's always like so strong, and it's always like from like a spectator, even you can just like feel like how much work and like how much went into just like performing that piece of music.
I think to go off a little bit of that, I think Dahlia, I think you mentioned this one time, where like if you watch, I think even like the vibe line or the marimba line, everything is almost like phrased differently, and there's like different parts. So it's like very, very detailed in the way it's orchestrated. I don't really know much about orchestration and stuff like that, but it's very, very rare that we're all playing the same thing. So I think it makes it that much more difficult to make it sound clean and balanced. But I think that's also definitely one of the things I like about his writing.
Yeah, to go with that, like the parts are all very different, but I think that Ian and maybe at least like when I was marching, I don't really like remember much of the recent stuff, but they do a really good job of like having these layers that always kind of like interlock in interesting ways. But if you know how to listen for them and you know what to listen for, like being a member in that ensemble, you know how your part aligns with like the vibe part or the drum set part or like the snares or the basses. So like having that ear and knowing how everything locks in is super helpful and like I think really cool just from a rhythmic standpoint.
Cool. Are we ready to move on to our next question? This one I think we can all answer with a thumbs up or thumbs down.
Interesting.
Is it possible to do DCI and WGI at the same time? I currently perform with 7th Regiment, but I also would love to play synth for Pulse. It's like middle CI and WGI at the same time.
I say do it. His question is a very specific one. I think he can.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Do it.
Do it.
Do it.
Right, Kevin?
I don't overlap. So
He'll be at auditions next year.
Do it.
Yeah, will you be at auditions next year?
Send KP Sanch a video.
He'll give you feedback.
KP Sanch 12.
That's right. That's right.
Have you ever had a pit mascot?
Oh my God.
What?
I don't think we did in 2015.
Wait, what was the question?
Have we ever had pit mascots in our time at Pulse? I think we've had a lot.
John Lee was my mascot.
Dahlia has a great reaction, I think, to this.
Dahlia, you guys had Chelsea.
Yeah, we had Chelsea was our Barbie doll. She had a boyfriend. I think his name was Tyrone. That's all I have to say about that. They hung out with us a lot at the rehearsals. Chelsea came to retreat with us in 2012. There's a nice picture of her with, I think, I don't remember who it was, but whenever they accepted the award, Chelsea had a nice little photo bomb in there.
Kevin, do you want to talk about Bon Quiqui, our cat from 2016 that we got from Secret Santa? You're also muted.
In 2017, I gave Eric like a little cat because I think on his Secret Santa list, he said he likes cats. So I gave him a cat that just like meowed and he named it Bon Quiqui. And he would always just carry it in his mallet bag and then bring it out at random times and start playing with it. And it would meow. Yeah.
So cute. We have Paco from last year. We won him at round 1. It's like this dinosaur.
He's from 2019.
2019. Yeah.
Didn't we have a Simba in 2011 for a while? Like from Lion King?
Wasn't it 2010?
Remember that. Yeah, 2010 we did the...
Was it 2010?
We did the Banished Beyond thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Banished Beyond.
Was there a duck in 2009, Charlene? For some reason, I remember some sort of duck.
Oh, that was 2007. We had this weird like singing thing.
That's right.
I don't even know what it was. It was like a giraffe.
I don't know what it was.
All right. From Jordan, what's your favorite memory with an instructor from a rehearsal? Also, Kevin's high key not my favorite instructor, but he also said just kidding and love you. But he's not. It's okay, I like you, Kevin. Sometimes.
I'll go. One of my favorite memories with John Lee is him showing up like an hour late to block every Saturday and being like, "Where are we going for lunch?" And then sometime in the beginning of the season when we were just doing Sundays too, he'll like take the pit out for extended lunch because he wants an excuse to like go sit down and eat somewhere.
How dare you?
One year we drove.
How dare you
like,
throw
Red
such
Robin in Anaheim.
accusations?
What?
How dare you throw such accusations at me? I didn't know such
That's my
thing.
favorite part, though.
Me too.
Sean Gordon used to do that with us in 2010.
I picked it up from Sean.
Oh.
I was going to say my favorite moment was with Sean, or at least very memorable in 2010, that he just showed up to a Friday night rehearsal really late and he just like put on NSYNC. He's like, "It's Friday night and I just got paid." I hope you guys all know that song, but I thought that was a really fun moment because I was personally really upset that he was so late. And I was like, "What are we doing here?" And then he was just like so happy-go-lucky, like, "Hey guys, it's a good time. Let's just jam and hang out." And I thought that was a really fun moment.
I love Sean. I think my favorite instructor moment, like from Sean, was in 2015 Blue Devils when, for some reason, like every single year for like National Donut Day, it lines up during all days, but it usually lines up when like Jim Wonderlick wasn't there. So the pit would all go to Krispy Kreme and they would get donuts. So Sean, I mean, we had a lot of great moments like in 2015 in Blue Devils, like Kevin and I got married randomly, but Sean's just like a lot of fun. But anyway, we wanted to get Krispy Kreme, but Jim immediately shut it down. He was like, "No, we're not doing that. That's ridiculous. We're not going anywhere. Like, you guys need to stay here and not blow off rehearsal." And so we all got really upset about it. And we tried everything to like convince Jim if we could go. And he still said no. And he was really hard on us. But after the lunch break, Sean, like before we all started again, like the block, Sean like called us over to his car and he opened his trunk and he got us all Krispy Kreme. Like he went on the lunch break and went and got boxes of donuts. And I just remember like everyone was like so happy. We wanted to cry, but he just pulls up and like unboxes all of these donuts. Like it was so good.
Oh,
That's pretty sweet.
How cute.
I have a memory of Grom. It was I don't remember what rehearsal it was, but he was drumming on the speaker or on the subwoofer, and he was drumming on like the music binder, I think, or something. But anyway, underneath the music was John Zuniga's cell phone, and he was just like banging the subwoofer so hard, and then he like turns the music page, and there's John Z's cracked cell phone. Like the screen was just shattered completely. That's so good.
Oh. It was Whitney.
Hi, Whitney. Hi, Whitney.
I'm back. Okay. Any last memories?
Kevin, what's your favorite memory?
Kevin, you're muted.
God.
I can't really think of one.
Can I talk about one with Kevin?
Sure.
It was this year's Valentine's Day, and Kevin had been hinting to us that he was going to get us presents. And so he made us, so we had like this cute Valentine's Day like gathering. It was a Friday night rehearsal. So we practiced for a little bit, and then we were all kind of just like in a funky mood, and we just wanted to celebrate. So after we ate for like an hour or whatever, Kevin told us to all stand in a line and told us to close our eyes and turn around. And then when we turned around, him and like the staff surprised us all with these shirts. But the backstory to it is that we started developing this habit of saying it's sabrosada time to leave rehearsal. Like middle rehearsal would be like, it's time for sabrosada, which is this Mexican restaurant down the street. We'd be like, it's sabrosada time, let's go. And we would just say it a lot. So they got us these shirts that Kevin's wearing right now on the stream that say, "It's Abrasada time." And I know that's like such a cheesy meme, but it meant so much to us. Like I know like a couple of us started crying because we were so in shock with the thought behind this shirt. And to thank him, well, they were letting us eat for a little bit because we had a potluck on Valentine's Day night. And so to thank him, we all played a prank on the staff and left the room one by one until he noticed we were gone. And then he threatened us. So we all ran back 5 minutes later and we did a full run through of the show, even though we've never played Movement 3 together. It was really bad. An etude. And then they let us go home early.
I decided on none of that. They did the thing on their own, and I just had no idea what to do.
But we got to go home early. Just kidding. That was one of my favorite moments. All right. Christian Doe says, I'm holding Paco right now. Aw. Let's see. Another question is from Frankie Rice. What was the biggest reason that kept you all coming back to Pulse year after year?
Frankie.
Aw, Frankie kept you coming back? But you left us. Oh.
Actually, my answer is not unrelated. I think what kept me coming back for a very long time was just the people I meet. Like, everyone in Pulse, I think, are just such great people. You know, it made it so, like, Jesse knows. I would tell him every year, it's like, okay, this is my last year teaching because I have to really focus on this. And then that continued for like 4 or 5 years. So it's a good testament to the fact that I think every year, and I think this is one of the best parts about marching like after high school, is you get to meet all these great people from different walks of life that, you know, you just form these like lifelong connections with. Like me and Charlene marched Pulse in 2007. Like that's 13 years ago. That's way too long. So yeah.
I agree.
I guess to like add on to what John Lee said, it's like it ends up feeling like a family. And every weekend you'd go to Pulse, you feel like you're going home almost. And a lot of that obviously is because of the people, but I think part of it too is like the environment and the culture that gets created there. We, at least back in my day, it felt like a lot of us weren't necessarily like the best of the best, but we were all pretty good. And we were all there to like get better and like really hone in our skills. So just having that like common goal all together, I think like helped make that feel like a family and was what ultimately made me keep going back.
Yeah, I literally had like, and I know a lot of people do this, but like I worked Monday through Friday and I worked like 40+ hour work weeks. My first year in Pulse, because like I said, I moved out here and I paid my own rent and everything, and bills are real. And so are tuition fees. But I worked like a full schedule. And on Fridays, I would have maybe like an hour in between work and leaving for rehearsal because I lived in Santa Monica. So driving from like Santa Monica to Westminster, you know, on a Friday on the 405 for people that are in California, it's like ridiculous. And when I moved here, the 405 was all I knew. Anyway, I worked like full time, like completely full time. But Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, it didn't even feel like a chore to me. It didn't even feel like I was so excited about the weekends. It didn't matter like if I got no sleep. It didn't matter if I was tired from work or anything. Like I was so excited to just get to Pulse and just be there with everybody, because like we all like grind hard like for Pulse, but like outside of the group too, a lot of people, you know, most everyone, like you work really hard in school and work and whatever. But that was like the biggest thing for me is I was so excited. I would like get in the car and I was so ready to go for the whole weekend because I was so excited to see all the people, you know, that I met out here and like be with the instructors and just have a good time all weekend. Like I loved it.
I think my reason for coming back also just relates back to the 3 answers that have already been said. I think the main one, the 2 main ones are the fact that at Pulse, I feel like you're almost taught to be a better instructor versus like, I know like you're getting taught how to play music better, But I think I learned how to be a better instructor while being at Pulse, just because you're being taught so many different ways that you start to think about things in all the different perspectives that you can. So you just naturally get better at teaching that way. And then, like John Lee said, the people, it's just, it kind of goes with to show, I think all of us, we weren't really close before, like the people that are on in this chat. We all like know of each other, but aren't really completely tight outside of our, I guess, year groups. But as soon as we started the chat online throughout the week, it almost seemed like we were all just instantly friends. Like it was crazy. Like I thought it was going to be, like naturally you think it's going to be slightly awkward, but I don't think it was awkward at all. Like at any point, it was just, we all picked up and it was just friendly, and it almost seemed like a family type vibe to it.
Yeah, like I just met Jesse. Like this was the first time, like I knew of him, but like this is the first time I really met him. And like I know I told like the chat earlier in the week, like with Charlene, like I met Charlene on an airplane, like from DCI finals to Minnesota in 2015. And I hate flying. Like Dayton 2015 with Pulse, I had like an awful flight. It was just miserable. The logistics were awful. I was on a different flight than the Pulse flight. Like it was crazy. So my flight, like from DCI, I was sitting next to Charlene and I had no idea who she was, but I marched with Tyler, her younger brother. And I was like freaked out about taking off or whatever. And she literally like held my hand, like taking off. She saw that I was like nervous and she like gave me her hand and she was like, do you want to hold my hand? And it was just so cute. And then the whole flight, we ended up talking about like Pulse and just about everything. And so like me not even knowing her, like she was just like so great. And that's how I met Charlene. And so I feel like even though like I didn't march with her or with Jesse or with, a lot of people, you end up just like becoming like friends and knowing each other because of like, the family that Pulse creates for us. So.
We have 2 more questions for the live stream. Rhymes123 says, with the cancellation of the season, are people that were supposed to age out the season that didn't be able to join Pulse? I guess that's a yes. They extended the season 1 more year to everyone who was supposed to age out. So anyone who was supposed to age out in 2020 can audition for any group again next year.
I'm interested because Whitney, because you marched. What were the age outs like? The age outs that had it, are a lot of you guys gonna do it again, or what are some of the perspectives of you guys?
I think we would all love to do it again, but I think we've gotten so far in the season, because like if the season maybe ended in January or a little bit earlier, we would be like, okay, let's do this again. But we had our uniforms, we had our entire show done a couple times, we had I don't know, we had a pretty good experience, and I think a lot of us were ready to move on with our lives and kind of like for me personally, and like a lot of the Marimbas, we've been waiting for the younger ones to come take over. We've been here like for 4 to 5 years, a lot of us on the Woods line. So we're definitely ready to just be like my sister, right? She I want her to be up there, or the rest of them. And then all the high schoolers that we teach, we want them to kind of grow up and start filling in those shoes. So we were like, it's time for us to move on, unfortunately. So we could, but it's just different, Like I would want to come back with everyone. Like if Roel, Frankie, and Trent came back, I'd be like, all right, I'll come back too. But it's just kind of different. So
your sister's in Pulse with you?
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, 2019 and 2020. Okay. We are gonna, Yoshi Waldo, we will end with your question and Loose Next questions. You guys are the last 2 questions. Loose Next asks, have you ever experienced the flow state or a golden run? And if so, what was that experience like? Oh, these are like those runs where you have a fantastic run and then everyone, like you don't have to speak about it. You're like, that was amazing. That's the golden state run. I think that's where he's coming from.
I think mine would be BD 2016. I think it's like just mainly a specific part of the show. It was the ballad. And I remember we always had issues with the ballad because it was so open. And there was so much space that it was hard to play together. And I think there was a moment where it was just mallets. Like there was no electronics. There was nothing. It was just, so you could hear everything that was basically dirty. And for finals day, it was so clean. Like the moment we finished playing it, I looked to our center, who was Marissa Spivak at that moment, and we both just like had the biggest smile on our faces because we knew that it was like the best that had ever been. I think I started crying. I'm not sure. I'm not too positive on that, but it was like super cool that we ended the season with basically like a perfect run in our eyes of the ballad.
I think in 2015 Pulse, one of those moments was the run one. It's like the crazy pit run, because there's always like, I know there's more like in recent years, but like every year there was always like one run, just like the 2010 run that's like insane. But in 2015, the semifinals performance in Dayton, our run was like so clean that I felt like I could only really hear like what I was doing. Like it was so, like everything else was silent, like the crowd, you know, anyone around me, like all I was focused on was like me and my center. And then like it was just so clean that, just like Kevin said, like we both looked at each other and it was like confusing because it sounded like a vacuum of sound was just taken out, you know, like it's so clean that it's like it's so articulate. And especially in Dayton, like I know the arena is not like the best for like sound and listening situations, but I just remember that moment was like so insane. And then we tried to like emulate it in 2015, like in finals, and we were just too hyped. And like you can tell like the difference between something so clean and something, you know, not that great and not to that like caliber, because just the difference in sound, it really does sound like a vacuum of sound, like you're in space. Like it's crazy.
Anyone else? If not, we will move on to our last question.
I think.
Oh,
no.
You got it, John Lee.
It's funny because I think I had. So this is kind of the weird part for me. Like, I had a moment like that for 2010. I think I'd like to think it was finals, but maybe it wasn't. I'm not sure. But it's the feeling of, I get the almost opposite feeling where if I have a great run, I won't in my mind have any kind of like ideas of like ticks that just happened. Like I'll finish whatever I was doing and then I'll be like, oh wait, like, huh? What? And then that was a sign that was good. It's really weird, but yeah. And then I watched the video.
I feel like, Charlie, I totally agree. Like if you don't remember, I feel like that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Like if you finish, you're like, oh my god, that just happened. And I think, yeah, I'll leave it at that.
All right, last question. What from Yoshi Waldo? What did you learn during your time at Pulse besides music? What did you take with you, and how did you apply it to your everyday life? That's a good question to leave off on. Thank you, Yoshi Waldo.
I'll go first.
I'll go.
Oh, go ahead, Dahlia.
Oh.
Or no, Brienne. Who was
Brienne.
that? I don't know.
Okay. I think for me, like it's something that you learn that you don't really realize that you're learning until later. When you can kind of step away from the activity and like move on and do a couple different things. But just like hard work goes a long way. And just like I think the work ethic that was instilled in me from doing all of these activities, and especially from Pulse, is something that will carry you very far in life, and something that people will end up like admiring you for. Even if like, for me, it's like I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing because that's what you're supposed to do. But it's something very unique, I think, to the marching activity, is like you get so involved in it and so invested in it that you kind of forget that that's actually like going above and beyond in some people's eyes. So for me, it's like just like the work ethic and that sort of mentality of trying to get better at your craft, whatever that may be, every second you're in it.
For me, I think I learned from Pulse just being comfortable with myself. Like whenever I'd go back and watch previous years, I'd see like my growth of confidence and just like ownership of like my instrument and like just my posture and again like overall confidence. I feel like I learned a lot of that from Pulse just because of the opportunities I had, like being in the center for a bit, like being in that leadership position and having like a strong team around me and everyone who was very supportive. Even when I was like there for my first year and like not very confident in myself, everyone was always helping to lift me up. And that was really helpful for me as a human.
Yeah, I think Kevin mentioned it earlier. It helps you become a better instructor. And even if you're not teaching music, it taught me so many leadership skills, not necessarily just from being a leader of the pit or the ensemble, but learning from the instructors and how to set an example and just be organized and time management and all that stuff. Just, yeah, like growing into yourself and just becoming a better person and leader.
I think completely to like add on to everyone's conversation, you know, everyone's talking about these awesome experiences and leadership and, you know, teamwork and having these opportunities. And I think, you know, this activity, I think has, you know, gives you so many opportunities to be, you know, you're rehearsing so much, you're working so hard, you know, for this show. And, you know, it's like you work for 400 hours for like a 6-minute show, which is crazy. And I think when you're not in front of the board, you know, I think there's a lot of other, you know, experiences, like you're making friends for a lifetime. You're going on lunches, you're getting donuts, you know, you're staying over at friends' houses, you're exposed to so many different kind of but experiences that are outside of the playing. And I think the biggest thing that I learned is you're exposed to a lot of experiences and opportunities outside of the musical world because you're in this mesh of people from all around the world that you have no idea who they are. They're complete strangers. Like Emily said, she moved across the country, which is amazing. And so you're thrown into this group with a bunch of strangers. And I think something to make sure you take away is that, you stay safe and you stay smart and, you know, you make sure that you're looking out for each other and that there's this environment where we're creating a safe space, you know, we're creating a family vibe, you know, and that we can't take that for granted and that we have to make sure that, you know, not only are we looking out for each other, but, you know, we're creating the safe space. And I think, you know, Pulse and, you know, pits and drumlines across the world are trying to create that atmosphere and everyone wants that atmosphere. But in the end, it's really up to you and those members to make sure that you're creating that type of atmosphere. And I just really hope that, you know, moving forward, I haven't been in the drumline world in a long time, but, you know, in working in any other world you're in, you know, it's up to you to make sure that you take those type of life experiences forward and you know, be safe and be smart and look out for each other.
To add on to what Jesse was saying, and I guess going back to the confidence that everyone says that they gained, I definitely think I learned the same things. Ian went through this weird photography, or I think he's still into photography. But when he first started to learn photography, he would be in everyone's faces 24/7 with a camera, basically teaching you how it would be to be like play under pressure. And that was probably one of the most like scary things I've ever done, because not only do I hate pictures and videos of myself, but it was like Ian listening to me play right in front of me. So it was like a combination of like a bunch of fears just happening in front of me. But I think with like that happening for 2 years, it was just this confidence that I gained with just, I guess, myself and also my playing. But I think the number one takeaway I have now that I've aged out is keeping that confidence no matter where you're at. I think in my field, it's really hard to describe what drum corps is or what winter drumline is, and people don't often get it. So when you try to explain to them, they kind of just brush it off, and I don't know, maybe this just happened with me, but I feel like it happens with a lot of other people. You start to question whether it was worth it or if the skills that you got from it are really worth it. But I think you just have to continue having that confidence that you gained through your experiences. And no matter what people think of what you did, or if they think it's a waste of time, you just have to know, like, in yourself that it wasn't. And you have to really value everything that you learn in order to make sure that you still apply it going forward.
I just kind of want to talk about like something like I experienced, and what I want people to remember too is that like your health is important, and you know, your mental health, your physical health. Like in 2016, I was a part of Brother, but unfortunately I had to leave because of like health complications. And I remember like a conversation I had with Ian, and I was like, yeah, but the group, and I want to stay involved, and I want to stay in this community. And he told me, like, no matter what, like everyone will still be here, and they'll be here for me and for each other, and we're always going to be close. But you have to remember that like your health and, you know, what's going on with you is very important. So I know a lot of people get afraid of taking a year off, or, you know, they want to say, oh, I marched from 2015 to 2019. Like, and it is a huge accomplishment, but just remember, like, I know we talked about school earlier, like we touched on it, or with jobs or with anything, like your mental health and your physical, emotional, whatever, it's really important to like take care of yourself too. Like, I know it's hard in this activity to just go and to just do it and just, you know, balls to the wall, just like 100% all the time. And it's really easy to get run down and kind of like distracted from yourself. But just know that like taking a year off and things like that are okay. Because with my experience, like I still wanted to stay involved. And like the second that Ian asked me to teach POW in 2018, like I took it because I wanted to stay involved in the community. And when I felt healthy enough and strong enough to do so, like I did. So I want people to not be afraid of taking the time to recognize things within yourself that might stop you from the activity or might take a break or whatever you need. Like, it's okay. Like, no matter what, like we said earlier, like all of these people, you know, they're still in my life. We still hang out, we still text or Snapchat or whatever. They're not going to go away, and neither is the activity. So taking time for yourself is like super important. And that's something really important for me too. And I know a lot of people, so I just wanted to talk about it.
I wanted to talk about something too that's kind of similar to like emotion, or sorry, your mental health and what we've like taken away from this. And for me, I've learned a lot about controlling my emotions, which is really tied into how I perceive things, or like you know, how I can change how I'm feeling about something. And for me, like it took me 2 to 3 years, and I'm still dealing with it. But like controlling my emotions when things get rough, because in drum corps or in indoor drumline, a lot of times you're like really into it. It's so intense that it's super easy to get caught up in the small things. And like if you have a show where something doesn't go right, or it's raining, or like something breaks, like it's super easy to get frustrated, especially when you know you could do a lot better. And also just being with people all the time. Like I wish I was a lot more of a patient and understanding person when I marched back then. So I guess this is also like a little piece of advice for everyone marching. It's definitely worth it to prioritize the relationships with the people around you over everything else. I think like the relationships with your staff and your friends, and even like the enemies that you might encounter through the activity. Like it's worth it to try to understand them and to prioritize that, and to make sure you're always approaching things from like a calmer perspective. That's something like I wish I did more early on, but something I've learned through being at Pulse.
Yeah, and just to finally like add on to that, I think if you recall like our entire conversation today, we have never mentioned like the competitive aspect of being in Pulse too much. You know what I mean? It's always been about the people. Been about the relationships. It's been about these amazing invisible things that, you know, you get from being in an activity where you get to bond so closely with different individuals around you. And I think this is something I learned kind of hard in 2010 and then going into 2011. It's really about like what you guys all say. It's like it's about the people, and it's about like in the end we're in this activity to have a good time, right? It's for us to enjoy ourselves and to push ourselves to know that we can be better people. Competitors are just people in general. So this is just advice to anyone that's like going into like maybe like a world group or going past high school. It's like it's really easy to get caught up in the competition, but just remember to take a step back and really think about like what's actually like the biggest parts of this activity to you. And I think for a lot of us it's the people. So
if anyone has anything else to add, now would be the best time. If not, we are going to close our streaming session for tonight. Any words to impart?
we're coming back tomorrow. Is that what you're saying?
Brianne,
we might re-record the beginning. Sorry?
I was going to say, Brianne, can you use your Renegade speaker just to say something?
Remember? Didn't she break it?
I broke the volume button.
It's right there. I can see it.
I can't do. Wait, you should show everyone the speaker. It's so cool. It's so iconic.
Is it cool?
She's not wearing it, probably. She can't get up.
I have a fun fact. Dahlia was the one who gave me my private lessons first in 2013, and she's the one who introduced me to this whole world, and that's why I heard POW on bass drum, and then I got cut, and then I went to rec.
Dahlia was also one of the first people who inspired me, because I went to school at La Quinta, and so I went in and I was like, whoa, like who's the center chick? Like I want to be like her, but I'll probably never do Pulse, but here I ended up doing Pulse. But yeah, I thought she was so cool. I still think she's really cool.
Oh, you're too sweet.
Do you remember, Dahlia, the time at a random DCI show in 2013 when I was a sophomore, and then I spotted you? So I was next to Taylor Brown, my instructor, and he was like, I have her number. Do you want it? So I texted her, which is so weird.
Oh my gosh.
Hey Dahlia, like I see you in the stands, can we take a picture? And she said, yeah, sure, I'll take a picture with you and give you my sunglasses if you come down here and find me. So I did, and I still have her sunglasses.
Oh,
That's so cute. Fun fact, Charlene is actually the one that got me into Pulse. I was not planning on marching after high school at all, and she said, hey, come try out for Pulse in 2007. And
I don't remember that at all.
I was not planning on doing anything after Esperanza. And you're like, hey, I'm going to audition for Pulse. You should come. And I'm like, okay.
Aww.
And then after that, we became roommates.
Jesse is the reason that I was in Pulse Open in 2012. He was supposed to teach at PC that summer, and at auditions for PC, he like pulled all the vets aside and was like, hey, like we have this open marimba spot if anyone wants to come and fill it. So I joined Pulse Open in like January.
I do remember that. At that time, I was me and Rudy Arzaga at the time were teaching both, right? Pulse Open and PC at the time. And then we're like, we need a marimba player. And we're like, that one. Let's ask her. That was cool.
This is sad. I feel like this was goodbye, but it's not really goodbye.
Same time tomorrow.
Yeah, we might
do this on the Facebook chat.
We might do a little one tomorrow just to redo our beginning, since we had a lot of technical difficulties for the YouTube video, and to share some other videos. John Lee, you're not.
John Lee?
I was just kidding, but okay.
That's pretty good.
All right. Well, does anyone have last fun facts?
I'm old.
Oh, look, if you look closely, John Lee and I have the same backpack. Mine's hanging right there, and John Lee's is on his couch. Bed.
Kevin copied me.
Accidentally.
Yeah, I can see that.
Accidentally.
I don't know how you can accidentally copy someone, Kevin.
I have a question.
Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
A question.
Wow, she's going slow.
She said she had a question.
You gotta type that question, Whitney.
I know.
This is not a very flattering screen.
question for the old people. Do you guys drum heads?
Wait, we can hear you now.
What? I can
Okay,
hear you.
go ahead.
Hello, am I good now? Am I good now? Okay. Okay, so have noticed me, Kevin, and Brianne, all of our heads.
The old people.
But do you guys have any? Do you guys throw them all away?
Heads?
Heads?
You know, we're in the
Yeah, like
pit,
drum
right?
heads or but you
Why
can
would
still
you
have
have drum heads?
Heads every year.
No.
I have this
never mind.
OG
You
Pulse
guys are
jacket.
too old. You guys are too old. You guys are too old.
Oh yeah, the old Pulse jacket. That's
Oh
so
yeah.
A
That's so
Kurtali
cool.
and a marimba key somewhere.
Yeah, I took a bunch of keys from.
Oh,
You took a bunch of keys,
Well, no,
Emily?
like ones I broke. Like ones I broke because I would like you were supposed to send them back, and I just kind of put them in my mouth bag and forgot.
Yeah,
so that I
you're
just,
supposed to send them back.
yeah,
Great.
but I forgot. I just forgot. But now I have like probably like 3 or 4 keys. I have a vibe key from Pulse. It's like an out of tune key from Izzy's vibraphone that I kept. And then I have like heads from every single year that I've marched.
Where do you get these drum heads from?
I always ask like the bass drummers if I can take their drum heads. Like if they have extras. Like in Blue Knights and in Blue Devils, I had like everyone sign it. Like I had a huge, I think Naomi gave me her bass head in 2015. And I had like everyone in the pit sign it. I'm pretty sure it was a percussion section, but I can't remember. But every year I'd have people sign heads. Like in 2012 or 2011 Blue Knights, they had like this weird like drum, like the drum solo or the drum feature, like featured people from the pit playing like a tom or something. And I took like one of those heads. Sometimes I would just find them on the truck. But you know, we've all been there.
Yeah, totally.
all right, this might be the end of our night. Let's all do a final wave.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye bye. Good night.
Kevin
It was
Sanchez
fun.
on Instagram at KPSanch12.
Oh yeah, send your audition videos to KP12. You'll respond with feedback. Lots of it.
Honestly, if you hit any of us up, we might respond. We will probably respond to you.